So now we're going to hear from our upcoming poster presenters. John, why don't you start?
All right, thank you, Kelly. Again, I know a lot of you, but not everybody. My name is John Barentine, and I'm the Director of Public Policy with IDA. One of the other hats that I wear is as our resident physical scientist, and somebody who's very interested in how technology and lighting design could potentially come together to solve this problem in part. And so I have what I hope is some good news. This is some work that we did last year, was published earlier this year. After I put these slides together, I was told it was 3 slides in 5 minutes, and I said, of course I can do 10 slides in 5 minutes. So next slide, please. I just want to very quickly mention some of the people who worked with us on this project, and especially our undergraduate student, Amy Wan from the University of Arizona, who's also a member of the Tohono O'odham Nation, and John Kanemoto, who is a high school teacher in the Natomas Unified School District in the Sacramento area in California. Next slide, please. So I don't need to dwell on this very much other than to tell you that LED is potentially a very big problem. It's a form of light unlike any that we've had in our environment before. And with this challenge also comes some promise, and that if things were done well, we might be able to end up with a good outcome here. Next slide, please. A little bit about the city where I'm from. Tucson, Arizona is a metro area of almost 1 million people in southern Arizona. As I've noted up here, we have a very good comprehensive outdoor lighting policy that's been in place since the early 1970s. And one reason for that is that we have a number of astronomical observatories in the vicinity. And so you ask people in Tucson, why are the neighborhoods so dark around here? They'll tell you it's because of astronomy. And at least 10 years ago, when the University of Arizona studied this question, they found that the space astronomy and space science sector was worth $250 million a year to the Arizona economy. So it's actually part of how we make our livelihood in southern Arizona. Next slide, please. So the opportunity that we had is the replacement of about 20,000 street lights throughout our city, moving from 400-watt high-pressure sodium legacy technology from the 1970s to some form of LED. And of course, once this project got underway, the astronomers came out and said, remember that deal that we made with you? Yeah, we want to make sure that this new lighting system doesn't foul our night skies so that we're able to continue doing research from here. So this just shows the locations of all of those street lights, and the distinction between the colors is some of them are utility owned, whereas the vast majority in red are owned by the city of Tucson. Next slide, please. So this shows you a picture of what happened during the conversion. We ended up with 3,000 watt or 3,000 Kelvin 80 watt white LEDs. This was a region in the east side of town where for a while we had the old legacy system up on one side of the street and we had the new LEDs on the other. You wouldn't know it, but if I did, because I ran out there into traffic with a light meter to find out that the new illuminance on the street directly below the lights was down by a factor of 4. I asked the project manager at the City of Tucson how many complaints they've gotten about the brightness of our new street lighting system, and he said you can count them on 2 hands. Not bad for a city of this size. But this is to show you what we had, what we went to. We asked the question, what impact did this have on the night sky? Next slide, please. So we made some observations in 2014 for the student project that I mentioned in the poster that was just about comparing different means of getting a handle on what the brightness of the night sky is. So a lot of the common approaches to measuring that. And the students ran around and got a bunch of measurements all over Tucson. Those are the blue stars. We came back and we did some observations from those same locations in 2017 after the lighting retrofit was about 95% complete. And the red stars on there show you locations for which we did some numerical modeling of the brightness of the night sky before and after the conversion. Next slide, please. So just to briefly show you some of what we got, measurements on top, theory on the bottom. In addition to single channel measurements like SQM, we also did calibrated all sky photometry showing 2014 on the left, 2017 on the right, before and after. The model on the bottom predicts by the amount by which the SKYGLOW should have changed. We found an effect that was about half of what we expected, which we think has to do more with the exact mixture of lights in the city and not something that's fundamentally flawed about the modeling, because we only had a complete accounting for the street lighting and not the other private forms of dominate. Next slide, please. And we tied that in with some measurements from orbit, again, bearing in mind that the state-of-the-art in terms of Earth orbiting satellite imagery is largely blind to the difference in light. We took that into account. We looked at passes that were made during our measurement period in June of 2014 and compared it to June of 2017 and saw an overall decrease that was consistent with the expectations for modeling. Next slide. And so I'll leave it at this, and this is what you can talk to me more about at my poster. There's a long way to go from here to saying that this is the solution that will fit every situation, but we think it is suggestive of possibilities if you combine the right spectral power distribution of lighting with an overall reduction in lighting intensity. You might actually be able to make your sky marginally darker. And I also want to make a plea for people who are living in places that are looking at doing lighting conversions in coming years. Please, please, please take before and after measurements, because we very much need those in order to understand this problem better. So if you want to know more about it, see me at my poster, and thanks for your attention.
Sorry, I'm Paul Marchant. You can see it's not a lot of colour on there. It's rather a more basic slide. But basically, I'm a statistician. I kind of spend some time digging to see the real scientific basis of some claims, and particularly in lighting and public safety, road crashes and crime. The point is, it's easy to get results out of some data in a computer. That's not the hard bit. The hard bit is to make sure that the results actually come to have a good logical scientific justification and say something true about the real world. And a nice quote there by Stephen Sen, a medical statistics luminary, who says statistics is a subject that many medics find quite straightforward, but statisticians find has quite a few challenges. It's quite easy if you don't really know what you're doing, I think. So I've got, my poster is basically a couple of lighting studies which I think are flawed, and one of the things to, it's important if you're comparing different lighting regimes and their effects is to make sure that you're comparing like with like, and a good way of doing that is by a randomized control trial, as is done in medical healthcare type settings very often. And but it's only if it's done properly, and that is set up properly with a clear outcome measure and a planned analysis in advance. There's no evidence that that was done in this particular case. And the other thing is, do not tinker with many different analyses, because with Russian roulette you'll always get a result in the end. So that is a point to always remember. And it also just sort of like, does things sound about right? Is it reasonable? And one of the things is, would one extra city light in a city block actually reduce crime by 48%? It seems implausible to me, but yet that is a claim there. And there's Twyman's law: the more unusual, interesting the data, the more likely it is to be have been the result of an error of one kind or another. So always bear that in mind. Now, observational studies are more tricky, because you can't guarantee that you're comparing like with like, and one must eliminate the effects of so-called confounders, other things which are correlated with both the exposure, the lighting, and the outcome, the number of crimes or crashes. Also, one should not do cosmetic analyses to make the result look a little bit better than what it actually is, and there's evidence of that. Now, the belief in artificial light analysis is necessary, or the forces of darkness will prevail, seems widespread. And one of the UK transport ministers some years ago was saying about reducing lighting, better lighting reduces accidents by 30% and by 20%. But I don't think that's correct. I think it's based again on flawed research. the best lighting study I've seen is a massive one done in England and Wales in the UK, which is involved about a third of the local authorities, involved in tens of thousands of road kilometre years of exposure for data, and they couldn't find any evidence in road crashes or crime. I think much to the disappointment of the lighting industry. In fact, the studies was set up to look at the effect of reduced lighting, because there was a thing because of energy consumption, the cost of it. The local authorities were dimming and doing part night lighting, and I think this was a worry to people lighting interests. And anyway, but they also did because they didn't find anything of that. Then they looked at what happens when you relight with white light. What happens, and basically couldn't find anything there either. Okay, next slide, please. I would ask you not to like my work just because you like the result. Light it before it follows scientific logic. There's a bit about me there. I have one paper about some of the thoughts in lighting research, why lighting claims may well be wrong. That's in open access. One of the things that occurs to me is lighting is merchandise and darkness isn't. That has a bit of a bias. And there's a couple of quotes there. It's difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary depends on his not understanding it. Had I not believed it, I would not see it with my own eyes. I quite like that one. Another Stephen Sem one, trust no one, check everything. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruoyu Li, and I'm representing the Dark and Starry Sky Committee from China, which is a branch of the China Biodiversity Conservation and Green Development Foundation. So right now I'm trying to talk about what did we do in this year. So as you see in this poster, it says beautiful China needs beautiful skies. This is actually a kind of a slogan brought up by Mr. Wang Xiaohua, who passed away last year. He brought up this idea because the president, he mentioned beautiful China, this kind of concept, and this year is a beautiful China concept, and the ecological conservation concept was written in the Chinese Constitution this March. So that means like our foundation at the Environment Foundation had the obligation to bring the beauty to China. So for this year, like also during this March, we proposed on the legislation on dark sky protection to the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which is a kind of the Congress of China. And next slide, please. This picture is taken in Tibet, the Ali area. I talked about this place like a million times in the past years. So this place was actually became a China Dark Sky Conservation Places last year, and this year we recommended Ali and another place called Nachu to the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Then these two places were listed on the IUCN's World List of Dark Sky Protected Areas, which are the first two places of dark sky like park were listed in this kind of international list. Next slide, please. So for the picture over there, this is a poster for the Earth Hour event. Actually, I heard this morning, like when they talk about like the Earth Hour with the WWF, and they said like they don't really get the idea.
They don't appreciate what an actual reduction in light pollution would.
Yeah, but we actually talked with the WWF in China, and we organized an event together. It's actually a series of events. It's called the Switch On My 60 Plus Life, Find Back the Lost Starry Sky. So these events actually included, the first one is a collection of photos. It's kind of a comparison. People take photo like before they actually turn off the light, and take another photo after they turn off the light, and say what really changes. And this is kind of a event like people post their photos, and so we shared them on multiple like different social medias. And this event was actually coordinated with the QQ browser, which is a kind of a popular internet browser in China. And also another event is a lecture series about the light pollution and dark sky protection. We did this lecture series in multiple places, including Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and the Inner Mongolia. And for the Beijing lectures, we did in 2 universities, and they hold by 2 kind of famous the night sky photographers. And also at the same time, we organized several roadside astronomy events. It's mainly held by like different astronomy clubs all over the China.
Ruoyu, 1 minute.
Okay. And also, another event is Starry Sky Music Concert. I heard like yesterday some people talk about like related the dark sky protection with art, like music. We actually did one of this kind of event. So if you want to know more, you can talk with me during the post section. So as you say, these 2 pictures on top, it's actually our new dark sky places called the Yeludang in the Jiangsu province. This is the 3rd one, and actually it's on the east coast area, which means a lot because it's the most developed area, and we still can find a place for the dark sky. And also, we're also talking about another dark sky in Shanxi, and this one is some people maybe know it's the largest radio telescope. It's in Guizhou, China, and we actually talked with the provincial government on the built astro tourism site there, and also the dark sky protection is one of the things there. And that picture is actually, we published our own standard for the dark sky places. So if anyone like in China, any places like companies or like parks want to become a dark sky places, they can try their best to reach that standard. So this is definitely lower than the IDA standard because like the culture of China and this right now, it's like China is really being like light polluted. So we kind of lower the standard, but it's still a kind of high goal for a lot of parks there. This is just released several days ago. So yeah, that's it. And if you are interested, just talk with me in the post section. Thank you.